You will never get another Ninja Gaiden commercial like that ever again. Speaking of Ninja Gaiden 4 has been released during this month. And is it a masterpiece? Is it the best Ninja Gaiden game? Does it live up to Tomonobu's old Ninja Gaiden game? Well, no and no and no. Is it the best game to come out this year? Maybe. I think it might be, and I think it's because it's a hack and slash game. I can't really think of any other action or hack and slash game to come out this year, and I can say a few things I do like about the game. The reason I even finished the game was because, well, I think the flow and fast pace of the game can make you have some fun. I also think the music was hardcore, remind me of something they would release in the 2000s that would kind of make your younger self feel very cool. And finally, a lot of dismemberment and blood and gore. And I think that's about the only thing I can think about it that's good, honestly. I mean, maybe also I could say it is a linear game. That's good too. I've been getting tired of the open world games, and I think this is a good thing for this game. So before I get into the bad, I do want to say RIP to Tomonobu Itagaki. I know I butchered that, but I did try. He did die during this month, I think October 16. If you don't know him, he is the director to the old Ninja Gaiden game and some of the DOA games. Any old Team Ninja game, he was part of it. I don't remember exactly which games, but I do remember him. He did die during this month, and that's pretty sad. But to get into the bad about this game, now during my playthrough, I did notice the enemy count was dropped. And if you ever played some of the old Sigma games, you would know, because I did play the original Ninja Gaiden 2, and I can tell the difference between a lot of enemies and no enemies at all. Now during some sections, this game did drop a lot of enemies on you, but most of the sections, you can tell the enemies are a little light, a little soft. And this is on the normal difficulty. Whereas even in the normal difficulty in the original Ninja Gaiden 2, you feel the enemies. They are there. There's a lot of them. And this ties into the combat also, which I will get into later. Also, I did notice the increase in HP of the enemies. Throughout my playthrough, I did notice I am spamming a lot of moves trying to kill enemies over and over. And especially you fight the same enemies over and over and over again. This does bring a fatigue to some of the execution that you constantly do during the game. And I will say that is part of the bad, because it feels like the game is taking too long. Like certain sections feel like it's dragged out because of the same enemies and the sponginess of the enemies that you're spamming on. Not to mention some of the sections do have like essentially just a raid mode where you just fight enemies back to back from level 1 to like level 3 maybe, and they just spawn in enemies in like this square room, and you just fight them over and over and over again. And during this section, you do notice the sponginess in the enemies, and I will say you can chalk that up into the bad section. Now, if you are a Ninja Gaiden fan, you know the combat, especially when it comes to Ninja Gaiden 2, which is my favorite one, but I know people didn't like the action. But even if you played some of the Black Sigma ones, you know combat is the main thing of the game. It must be good, especially it's an action game. Now during this game, I can say the combat is not Ninja Gaiden at all, and also the combat feels bad. Now during my first playthrough, I did not notice that, or during the first part of the game, I did not really get that. It's until they start dropping different type of enemies and more enemies on you. I think that's when I noticed how bad the combat is. The combat is, well, it's bad Ninja Gaiden combat, or bad action game, hack and slash game combat. And I say this because, well, the aggressive playstyles of Ryu and Yakumo, which is the smaller guy, the game makes it feel like an Arkham game essentially. The game is no longer about space anymore. It is more about spamming as much as you can, which in return they designed the enemies to also aggro onto you faster, which causes them to glide towards you. And you have the potential also to target the wrong enemy during some of these, some of your attacks. Not only that, the auto lock also makes this feels even worse, because once you are stuck on an enemy, you stay glued to that enemy, which makes target priority non-existent during this playthrough or during this game. Whereas in the older games, because they spawn so many enemies on you, it allows you to switch target on a fly. Like you can target one enemy that's your main target, and then you can switch on to another enemy just to stun them first, get them from hitting you, and then you can go right back to the specific enemy that you were mainly targeting. The biggest priority of these action games, or Ninja Gaiden game in total, is about positioning and spacing, which this game does automatically for you, because even Yakumo can also glide to enemies. He can also, auto target, like this auto lock on automatically make him jump to another enemy. So spacing is no longer a thing. And this reminds you almost of a Sekiro game. As much as you don't want to hear it, as much as you don't want to, hear me say that, it is essentially more of a Sekiro game. And mind you, Platinum Games made Bayonetta. Bayonetta was about spacing and, targeting target priority. This game is supposed to mainly, even if you were good enough in the older games, you could also isolate some of the enemies and kill one enemy and then go back to the POW and fight the other enemies. That is what the game is about. This game does not want you to do that. It just wants you to auto lock and spam moves and flow like a combat game. Oh, it's a combat game, like an Arkham game. It wants you to flow and bounce from one enemy to another enemy. Not to mention, because the enemies have more health these days, they don't typically react to your hold attack or any of your attacks at all. To add insult to injury, sometimes Yakumo can't hit multiple targets at once, which leads to gank mode, almost like Dark Souls 2 level, which makes the combat feels horrible. And speaking of horrible, the animations in this game also looks bad. It just doesn't feel slick and cool. The frame seems like it drops during these sequences, whereas in the original, the animation felt very slick and cool and impactful. That's another thing, the game doesn't make you feel strong at all. With some of the hits, it feels like you're tickling the monsters instead of really, actually hurting them. Whereas in the original, again, it felt like something that was out of an anime, with some of the hold attacks and some of the finishers. Just with this engine, I guess it's almost impossible to recreate that. While we're here, we might as well talk about the weapons. Now, I want you to guess how many weapons is in this game, and this is in Ninja Gaiden 4. I want you to guess, because if you've played the original, you know there were a lot of weapons. And the original Ninja Gaiden 2, I think, had 8 weapons, and that's just the melee weapon. I think 4 ranged weapons. In this game, you only have 5 weapons. That's it. Mind you, this game, I don't know how long it took to make this game, but either way, only 5 weapons. And I do not include, if I include Ryu's sword, that would be 6. But I don't include Ryu's sword because first, you don't even play as Ryu for that long. Second, you've already played with Ryu's sword. So Yakumo is the one with all of the weapons, and there's only 5, and that's including the ending dragon sword weapon you get towards the end. And even that I shouldn't count as a weapon. But either way, 5 weapons against 8 melee weapons. If you ever played the older games, the weapons felt different when you played with them. That's one. Also, they were used for range attacks or crowd control. These are the other, or to separate enemies. These are the use of the weapons. Now in this game, all of the weapon essentially feels the same, and I say that lightly because yes, you do have a spear, you do have the baton that you had from the old game, and you also have this final, well, of course the sword, and you also have this final weapon that kind of mimics some of the older weapons from the old games, I think it's a mixture of all of them, but you don't really fight with them. They just randomly come out while you're meleeing, right? So essentially, they do play the same a little bit. And I say this because there is this mechanic in the game. So there's two currencies in the game you get. One to upgrade your weapon or unlock new moves for all of the weapons. Like, so you unlock one move from the shop, which essentially you press, let's say it's like XXY. For the sword, it's XXY and it does the same move. For the spear, it is XSY and you still do the same move. Or at least, you know, it's a different animation, but essentially it does the same thing, the same move, and so on. And then you have this other currency which allow you to unlock combos for the different weapons that you have. So these are the two mechanics. And playing the game, I'm just giving it from how it felt. It felt like you're really doing the same thing over and over. I didn't see a reason to switch to the baton. I didn't see a reason to switch to the hammer or something, like which is the alternate weapon from, I think, the spear. I didn't see the reason. And I say this because, well, the weapons don't, I think, besides the sword, all of the weapons do the same amount of damage. If you remember in the older game also, you could upgrade your weapon that you had, which did a ton of damage, and not only that, it unlocked new combos for your weapon. Whereas this game, I didn't see the reason to play with any other weapon besides the ending weapon, or the weapon that combined all of the older game weapons into one, in the sword. I say this because the sword does so much damage and you attack so fast with it. I don't see the reason to play with the other weapons, and I think that is another thing you should chalk up to the bad, because the weapons should feel different. They should feel like something else you're using, and you're not using the same weapon over and over. Especially the game can be repetitive because of that. The bosses are arguably the worst part of this game, where I can maybe have fun with the mini enemies by flowing and, you know, doing crazy hit combos and flying them in the air and stuff. The bosses are arguably the worst part of the combat. I ranted about the combat, how you glide. Well, the bosses also glide. I think I've seen several YouTubers that are Souls YouTubers playing this game, and they're doing no-hit runs. That's when I knew, okay, I see the direction that this game is going. And I see what it was going for, because the bosses are essentially just parry, dodge, attack. Whereas in the old one, I can say the bosses weren't the highlight of the game. I can say, if you want to say a negative, the bosses might be the bad part of the original game, especially the second ones, which again, I'm talking about the second one because it's my favorite. But either way, but at least in the older game, you felt powerful. You actually did a ton of damage to the bosses. The bosses weren't really the highlight of the play. It was more the level design and the enemies that you fight, the mini enemies you fight. Either way, the bosses, you did a ton of damage to them. You didn't really waste time or get frustrated by sitting there and trying to parry and watch them. And they have iframe moves that they, you know, force you out of there. Certain, like sometimes during Ninja Gaiden 4, the bosses will go into their second phase and you can't attack them because they'll do this move that like fly you away and you know, get you further away from them, for them to now spam a move to glide towards you. Whereas in the old game, no, that wasn't a thing. And I know you're going to get mad that I'm comparing it to the old game, but I hate this type of combat when it comes to bosses. I hate this way. And also, like, there are moves during Ninja Gaiden 4's bosses where you have to use your alternate melee to like parry them and kind of stun them out of it. If that's not Sekiro, I don't know what Sekiro is. And again, as much as you don't want to hear it, that is what it's mimicking a little bit of. But either way, the bosses are the worst part of the game. Not only that, they're not cool. if you remember in the older games, the bosses, the set pieces were cool, the music were cool, their design were cool. This game's bosses are not cool, and that ties into the enemy design also. They look horrible. Almost all of them look the same. Some of the bosses look the same except for when you fight Ryu, because you do get to fight Ryu as a boss. There's this other samurai boss, I forgot his name, of course. It's not coming to my mouth now, or my brain, but it does look like the ordinary samurai boss. Yeah, the bosses look the same. I can't really get too deep into it because there is nothing to get deep into. They play the same almost, and they look the same, except for maybe a few, like the woman boss and some of the, like the Ryu boss and the dragon ending boss. That's it. After that, the bosses are the worst part of the game. Now, before I get into the other disappointment of the game, I do want to talk about the character you play as. So, throughout the entire game, you play as Yakumo, which is this short twink, and you only play as him. Well, you play as him for the first, I think, 12 chapters, and then you play as Ryu. Don't quote me on that, but you do play with him, let's say, about 95% of the game, and the other 5% you play as Ryu. Yeah, so Ryu is not the main character in this game. Not only that, the advertisement lied, because they made it seem like you played as Ryu a lot, or you bounce from Yakumo and Ryu, whereas the game, that does not happen. You play as Ryu towards the end of the game for like maybe 3 stages, and that's it. And not only that, Ryu's stages are bad because you're just going back to where Yakumo went through, which they didn't think of it at all. Not only that, Ryu does not get any weapons. He does not get any upgrades. You just run through the game with him, and he's also pretty OP. I think his combat might have been the most fun. If you're going to go towards this Arkham-like and fast-paced action game, then they should have went during this, because his alternate weapons are fast, or his alternate melees are fast. His executions are fast. Everything's flowing very fast. The pacing is very fast with him, and also he does a ton of damage. I first tried nearly every boss. I think there's one boss I got stuck in. And you play again as Yakumo, and Yakumo throughout the entire game, I didn't really pay attention to the story, if I'm being honest. You can probably, say, oh, that's a bad part of the video, which I agree with. I didn't really pay attention to the story because I didn't really even play Ninja Gaiden for the story. Either way, still, you play as Yakumo throughout the entire game. He's essentially the next... He is the mascot for the future games. I don't think Ryu will be coming back based on the ending, because Ryu gave him the dragon soul to put in his sword, and he essentially was passing the baton. And I think Ryu will not be in any other game. That's my speculation, but the entire game you play as Yakumo. Now, the most disappointing part of the game has to be the level design and how it looks, where I can maybe forgive and maybe get through the combat section, which, yeah, that's what makes it a bad Ninja Gaiden game. But the level design in this game is absolutely terrible. It is not good at all. For a game to be linear, you have to at least have good level design, or at least have good environment. I think it's very underrated in this modern time for developers to think about cool environment to put the player in, for the player to traverse. Yes, I'm going to compare it to the old game because the old game did that well too. In this game, you fight in a facility, and then you fight in a facility, and then you fight in a facility. Then you fight in the jungle. And then you fight in the facility again. And then you fight in the facility again. everywhere, essentially what I'm saying is everywhere looks the same. It's not unique, whereas in the old one there are cool environment, cool places you're going, like everywhere looks cool. I want to be there. I want to admire the section they decided to craft, whereas in this one, no, I don't want to. The level design also is bad. In the older game, the level design was much better. You wanted to go up, you wanted to go down, you wanted to traverse. Not only that, you're looking for these like skulls in the older game, and they put them in cool places. There was this clock tower you were climbing in the older games, and in this game, you run down a hallway. Oh, what's that? I can hold R3 because I was playing on controller to tell me where I'm going. Not only that, there's yellow paint everywhere. That's something else I forgot to rant about, but you know, that's in every modern game. But you hold R3 to tell me where I'm going. Okay, well then I will go this other direction. What's in this other direction? Oh, it's a fighting shrine thing. Or it's just one enemy you fight. Oh, nice. I will say you can actually miss bosses in this game. There's this one boss I think you don't really have to fight, and it's this like blue frog thing, and that's the only boss I can think of that you can miss. But after that, the level design is straightforward. You run down a hallway. Oh, and there goes the HQ, or the section where you can buy things. Oh, there's a boss, and then you fight it, and that's it. There's no cool environment. There's nothing cool to look at. You're not really immersed in this world. There's no imagination being used at all. Nothing. It's just straightforward. I think that's probably I said the bosses were the worst part. This might be the most, I guess it's more disappointing, just bad. I was expecting more. I was expecting more cooler things to happen. Also, like during the stages, you do have this section where I keep saying section, but you have this sequence or this part where you like use a glider, you use this waterboard to traverse. I think this really slows the pacing of the game down even more. If the amount of health of the enemies didn't slow the game down, this part of the game will slow it down, because you do this a lot in some of the sections, especially in like this jungle section where you like use a glider to fly through wind and stuff like that. I think it's a loading screen. That's my speculation, but it really does slow the game down. After that, yes, the level design and the look of the game might be the most disappointing. Honestly, this game might be the best game to come out this year, or maybe just this month. After all of this, Gibby, how can you say that? How can you say that it might be the best game to come out this month? Well, that's because it is a hack and slash game, and I did finish the game, guys. I don't typically finish modern games fully, unless, you know, I want to make a video on them. Maybe if I've already purchased it, I'll make a video, or I actually liked the game. Now, yes, this is a bad Ninja Gaiden game, but it is not a terrible game when it comes to what's being released now. It is a good game comparing to that. Yeah, as sad as it sounds, but it is what it is. The game is actually fun. If you've never played a Ninja Gaiden game, yeah, I think you will enjoy this game. You haven't played a hack and slash game? Yeah, I think you will enjoy this game. But after that, if you played any of the old Ninja Gaiden games, the one that were made by Team Ninja, yeah, this is a disappointment to you. It doesn't do anything better than them, if I'm being extremely sincere. It did try to go for this Devil May Cry, maybe Bayonetta, the first game, type of feeling, but what it doesn't understand is that, again, like I've spoken before, the positioning matters, and enemy variety and stages matter. This matters into a linear game, and this game did not have that. Hence, well, now it's disappointing. So yep, that is all I have for you. Thank you for watching all the way this far. I think I will be playing Outer Worlds 2. My God, I don't know if I want to, you know, yeah, I will be playing it. I will probably stream it here and there, but yeah, that's all I have for you for this game. Yeah, it was a pretty disappointing game.